Hi, it's Jon Binnie. If I've been brave enough to share this video, then here we are, exploring my deepest, darkest shadows I've experienced since my awakening. And I do not know how long this video will be. I don't have a script for it, but I do feel that it's good for me to share my deepest shadows so that I don't just preach, that I practice what I preach, and I share my shadow work. So I encourage you to share your own, at very least by speaking it out loud to yourself. And so in the summer of this year, I had an incredibly difficult time. I faced the biggest spiritual challenges I've had since my awakening in 2017, and in many respects, one of the hardest moments of my life. It was a very lonely and isolating and troubling time for me, and I felt lost. And so if I explain a bit about the lead up to it, I'm going through changes in my life. As you can see, I'm doing more and more spiritual work and building my spiritual mentorship business. And it is up to the universe, no matter how hard I try or push, and up to my soul to decide, like, when the right things for me come through. And one of my superpowers, and also one of my greatest areas for growth, is this ability to keep creating every day. I am absolutely tenacious. I am completely driven on my mission to raise the vibrations of billions of hearts. And it is a journey that is so beautiful and so magical. But sometimes in my shadow, I find myself pushing too hard. Excuse me, I had to come out. And when I push so hard, so for example, right now I'm staring at my Guinness Book of World Records great achievement for releasing, digitally releasing over 110 albums, now 137 albums. That journey is a really good indicator of how hard I push to create my dream life, the things that I really want in my life. And it's a really hard balance. You know, everyone creates differently. I definitely excel at creating each day. I love routine. I love being able to get up each morning and have a clear focus and a goal to drive towards. And my greatest challenge is if that goal deviates from my highest good, if it even just kind of slightly drifts away from it, it can become very destructive for me. And those, my friends and family around me. And what I experienced in the summer was really like a very, very concentrated version of that, where I was coming up from my summer holiday and I was busy doing music each day. To be honest, the music itself wasn't unsustainable by itself. I was also doing a lot of energy healing work. I was doing work for clients, at least a couple of sessions a week. Sometimes I'd do 2 or 3 sessions in a day, and sometimes they're very long and sometimes they're very deep. Sometimes at the kind of highest, easiest level for me, like a reading and a little bit of clearing of someone's chakras. And then at the deepest, hardest work, it would be clearing, really deep, dark, negative energy or entity, doing a soul retrieval, like going to some of the lowest levels of hell and retrieving parts of someone's soul with them and integrating and healing again, or just removing like a demon, like some really deep, dark shadow work. And some of the mistakes that I was making at that time were I would just push too hard. So I would go through that experience of helping someone, and the next day I'd get up and I'd just write a song and I'd get on with my work, and I might do another energy healing. And the trauma that I put myself through, just like I'm sure, you know, doctors experience this when they do major surgery or they're saving someone's life or someone loses their life, like it really impacts you, and self-care has to come first. And I was not putting my self-care first. And I was doing regular healings for friends. I was doing like monthly healings for people who had asked for it. However, over time, you know, if everything's once a month, once a month isn't always enough for people to remember that they've really consented to it. And I think for some people that I was doing it for, they had forgotten that I was doing it, and that when I did it, it would feel quite intense for them. And that if I'd been doing like really intense, you know, healing work or like entity removal the day before, for example, then some of like that would bleed into the next day, like in whatever dimension or whatever meaning that holds, whether it was just me being tired or low vibration, or, you know, at absolute worst case, like dragging through some of that residual energy into my next day's work, you know, a bit like having a kind of a psychic hangover and still like driving the next day, you know. So that was a real eye-opener. And the catalysts were, very sadly, I hurt two of my friends energetically and accidentally. And if they're watching this, I love you and thank you for both tolerating me and for seeing me and for stopping me. When they both stood up to me and said they did not enjoy their healings that month, and that some of this had been building up for them, it was so hard to hear, and it's taken such deep healing and mourning, a loss of their friendships, and yet they gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another being, which is to help me see my own shadows so bold and deeply. And when they confronted me individually, I was just so grateful. And it, for those moments, like, it destroyed me. I was just a mess. And so my friends did offer to help, but they said, look, this is really something you need to deal with yourself. Like, our own shadows are our own shadows. And, you know, what's that? It's that saying, like, you know, who heals the doctor? And it's like, for me, it's like, who exorcises the exorcist? And the answer is me. I had to face that myself. And so as my friends stepped out, I shut down. Like, I paused my YouTube, and I paused TikTok and Instagram. And I said, I'm taking some time out. And I did. I very quickly, like immediately, went into self healing. And just this is the hardest part to talk about. The next day, instead of my daily meditation, I sat down and I started recording the videos of what I went through, this like self clearing, this shadow work, Uh, and just last week, I watched back for the first time in months. I watched back the first video I made, and it was shocking. I found it really shocking to see like my face was just, what a lost soul, you know, like my face was so white and I was so drained. And I remember, and I was thinking like, what was it that like caused me to feel so bad? And I remember vividly losing my friends was a deeply wounding experience. And then also like coupled with that, you know, mixed all in with that was my own shadow, and not knowing, like at that time, I didn't know how big my demon was to fight. And so it's like I was stepping into this boxing ring to battle this thing that I didn't even know what it was or how big it was. Like I was blind to it, but I felt that it was there. And one of my friends had said, "Oh, you know, look at your eyes, John. Look at your eyes, and when they're darker and black, when they turn black, it means that you're clouded. You are energetically compromised." And right enough, my eyes were definitely dark around that time. And it's so hard to tell, you know, I'm often in the dark, like I'm in my little studio just now, and a bright light will, like, you know, lighten up my eyes more. But there was definitely something there. I think the biggest difference I saw was in my face. Like my face was like, just like hung down. It was lost. I was very sad and very low. And I went through this kind of destruction, which was, I accepted in that moment that I may stop any of the things in my life that did not serve my highest good. And that meant music. It meant energy healing work. It meant relationships with people. It meant my job, like just anything in my life, because I realized that I'd put all these things in front of my self-care and I hadn't looked after myself. Whenever you put anything in front of your self-care, you know, for any length of time, even just a few days, it is so, so dangerous. I will never do that again. And I love sharing this with you, because this is a big part of my self-care is facing my shadows. So I quite quickly like just explained the situation to myself, and I wanted to like record, I don't know how many videos I did, 10 or 13 or so, like the first couple of weeks. I wanted to take a month or two off. I think I took at least a month off music, and then 2 months, maybe more, off any energy healing work. And that felt really good to do. And I also made a lot of changes, but if I explain first what happened. So I did this meditation. So first of all, I don't really want to share these videos with you because the energy is so dark within them. I mean, it's just me sat, I was on holiday at the time, and it's just me sat in my camper van at the time doing these meditations. And it's quite close to what I'll be describing to you, but the energy was so dark at that time. I don't think that's right for me to share with others. I don't want you to receive that energy. If my opinion changes, or if I find a way of being able to like protect people, or, you know, you might watch this and say, John, I would really like to see that video. If you know me well, I may consider sharing one or two of the videos with you personally. And so in other words, I want to be as open and transparent as I can. And yet at the same time, I do not want to spread like that darkness unnecessarily. And it includes like, you know, it's encoded in the images and the audio and the videos. So there we go. That's where we stand. So you're getting my reaction to it. And I feel like my reaction is in many respects more helpful. So this was in July, and I went through this journey of, first of all, like just facing this. So I went into meditation. I asked Archangel Michael to step forward, so my guides, and I brought out my light sword, and I started like cutting down through me. And as I did that, like I immediately saw myself as this being that was all light on the outside, but the light on the outside of me, this white light was very thin. And then everything else within me was thick, dark, like this kind of demonic energy. And that was shocking to me. That was so shocking to experience that. As like, I feel literally like darkness wrapped in light, like hidden in light. And I have no problem with either. I greatly believe and know that, you know, darkness to light and the whole spectrum and everything in between is all valid and is all needed in this universe. And we need to love all aspects of this. And a huge part of this video is doing that, like loving every aspect. But it was shocking to me, the deception. And obviously that's the power of the dark, is deception. It's like either hiding in light or pretending that it is more powerful than light. And the superpower of light is being more powerful than the dark. And so the two, you know, continually rebalance and fight for eternity. And yeah, when I cut through, there was just like, I saw this dark demon inside of me, and I was so shocked. And I was like, I want it out. I want it out immediately. What was even more shocking to me, and I guess somewhat reassuring, was that it was also me. Like, it was the demon of me. It wasn't something else. It wasn't something external. I wasn't fighting, like, you know, Satan or the Lord or the underworld or whatever. I was fighting me. And so as I pulled this out of me, this demon out of me, I was like pulling it up out of me. And in the video, you just see me like gagging and choking. I was vomiting this being out of me. And what was really curious was I was quickly aware that I was on a galactic Federation ship, which is quite funny because I often feel like camper vans and things look a bit like spaceships. And I always imagine that, like a little space shuttle, my little tin box of a camper van. And my guides were there, and my higher self and angels, and they're all together, and it was like a kind of doctor's surgery. And I was lying on this med bed as I was going through this, and they had this cage in the room. And as I pulled this part of me, this demon out of me, I wanted to give it to Archangel Michael and send it back to source. And he's like, no, like no. It's going in this cage. And I'm like, no, I don't want, like, why are you putting it in a cage? Like, the cage was really close to me. It was like just across like the other side of the room from me. And I was like, don't put it in there. I don't want to see it. Anyway, I pulled it out, and right off they put it into this cage. And because they said, we want you to talk to it, Jon. It's you. You've got to, like, this is your darkness. You have to face it. And I'm like, oh no. But they said, look, just deal with the extraction today. Like, that's enough, like one day at a time. So I took this out of me, and it was so traumatic. It had grown inside of me. It was like, imagine like the darkness within inside of you, you know, like your little moment of fear. So I guess one way of thinking about this is that my fear of, you know, not transforming my life, or not being enough, or not creating enough, this sense of lack had, no matter how much I created, you know, music and meditations and energy healings, whatever I did, had grown and grown and grown. And then eventually they just like took over me. And I wasn't even aware of it. And so I handed this entity over, and it was now in this cage. And if you've seen the Spider-Man movie, Venom, where that's like the dark side of like a dark Spider-Man, that's what it looked like. It looked really like that. And so that was it. That was the first day. Just 1 second to get a coffee. A nice black coffee. So that was the first day. To be honest, the other days are a bit cloudy to me, and I will go back and watch lightly the second video, and I might come back and do, you know, follow-up videos to this to explain a bit more about what happened. So that was the first day. And then that night, I mean, in the astral realms, how would I describe it? Like I was just going through, like I was in intensive care and I was going through operation after operation, and my mantis guide was the most, she was so powerful and so beautiful, and she was like the most like on me the whole time. She was very like focused on the detail, like checking to see like what was still in me, what wounds were there. And they were trying to save me, but they couldn't save every aspect of me. I'd put myself through such trauma and grown such darkness inside of me, and there was such damage done to me that not every dimension of Jon could survive. And so my understanding is that until that point, there were nine versions of me, 9 timelines of me, like 9 lives, like a cat has 9 lives. And they couldn't save all of those dimensions of me, and that one of me really had to die, had to be let go. And so one of me died in that moment. Who that version of Jon is, and in what timeline and what reality, I don't know. I sometimes get glimpses, even before my awakening, I saw glimpses of the different versions of me, some like living the dream life, some, still in the same pattern, like old patterns, some like in just really dark places, like in prison and stuff, or, very isolated in a very dark place. And I feel like it was like the lowest version of me, the lowest 9th parallel version of me died. And that was really sad. Like it was, I feel really sad for that part of me. I mourn that part of me that died. I know that it was at great cost, and the healing has been, an incredible journey since. Then what happened after that? So I do remember that evening, because I just said to my family, I said, look, I'm taking a break from music for a little while and from my energy healing work. And I remember my wife saying that she was quite she was shocked. She was surprised, like, well, why are you doing this? And I said, I need that rest. I need to put myself first, and I'm not doing that. And she was really encouraging me just to get back to it. She was like, but you love it. Like, do the things you love. Like, do these things. And I was like, no, there's things I need to face within me. And so that was that conversation. But yeah, later that night, I was having these horrible migraines, and I went and had a bath for about an hour. And then I went and laid in bed. And I was then going through more surgery. Like, as I closed my eyes and went into dream state, I was like back in that room, back on the med bed with my guides all sat around me. And there was Arcturians, there was Mantis. My Lion guide was there. My Lion guide was really interested in the kind of venom version of me, the dark version of me. And there was just a lot of work going on. And that was when they tried their best to save every part of me, but lost that 9th aspect of me. So that's when I knew how serious it was, that this sort of thing, can kill you or kill aspects of you. And, my soul still survives, my soul's eternal. And I'm not saying that from a state of fear. I'm saying it from a state of respect and understanding about how damaging it can be when you ignore yourself and when you ignore your self-care. The next day, I was being encouraged in meditation to talk to Archangel Haniel. And I'd never worked with Archangel Haniel, and I had to Google Archangel Haniel, like, oh, what do they do? And I learned that Archangel Haniel has lots of different abilities, and even their gender is often male or female, and kind of drifts between genders. which I really loved. I never really saw angels as having genders. I found that quite fascinating. And then I said to Archangel Haniel, please come through in my meditation. So the next day I asked for that. I think this is like day 2 or day 3, and Archangel Haniel came in and said to me, I'm going to give you the gift that only you can give yourself, which seems like a contradiction, but really, really beautiful. And what they did was they had this like golden ball in their hand, and they gave me this golden ball, and this golden ball was self-love. And so this golden ball like floated down through my arm, like came all the way down and then came into my heart. And my whole being was just filled with the self-love. And Archangel Haniel was saying that their gift is like, it wasn't that in that moment, it wasn't my self-love, but it was a feeling. What does it feel like in that moment to be able to feel like you truly love yourself? And I'd lost that love for myself completely. I really had lost myself. And Haniel was like, okay, now you have to do this. You have to practice this self-love. Like you have to give yourself this gift of self-love again to heal yourself. I was like, wow. And every day since that moment, since July, it's now watching this in November, Archangel Haniel comes into my daily meditations. I invite them in, and I always ask for the gift of self-love. And I know that it's only a gift I can give to myself. And so then through the journey, I started like thinking about my recovery, and I didn't want to set hard and fast dates on things. I started experimenting more with music. I started, just playing and practicing. I'd stopped writing songs for a while. So I was just like, I wanted to keep up with some practice. And that was really fun. Like the freedom of expression I really enjoyed. And I started to work on a song called Lost Ship. And I thought, let's do something really different. So didn't want to publish anything, but what I wanted to do was capture this growth, this rebirthing. And so I created Lost Ship, and each day I would do like one part of the song, which I'd never done that before, ever done that before. That was magical, so I'd do like the bass part for like an entire day, and then the rhythm guitar for an entire day, and I'd do the one layer of vocals for an entire day, and this just went on for weeks. Lost Ship is the name of an album, and it's also what I released as a song, and many different versions of it as well, and a big epic music video. And I just poured like a lot of healing into that, and just like sharing how lost I was. And it's funny, like it's such a different energy now, that song, to what I create now. And through this healing journey, I got to the stage where I started implementing the changes I needed. So I'd taken a break from music. I now take every Sunday off, or at least one day off a week. Like one day off a week, no releasing a song, whenever that is, and sometimes more. And in fact, since then, I took, I think, a couple of weeks off. I took a week off on holiday and a week off when I was in Vancouver with work. Now, what I have been doing is I created sometimes on a Sunday, or on other days, I'll create like more songs, and I just allow them to build up in front of me. And I think at the moment I've got 4 or 5 songs ahead of me. So I could just stop today and just know that I have this feeling of there's always another 5 songs. And it did grow. Just before I went to Vancouver, it grew to about 2 weeks of songs. And I felt like that was a bit much, but it's like, I find it like a really helpful buffer for me. I also like changed my mantra. Like I'm Jon Binnie. I don't write a song every day. I write a song almost every day, or most days. And just that kind of description of how I approach it is really helpful for me. And it means now that when I don't feel like creating a song, I don't do it. I look after myself. And so a little bit later in the journey, before I came back kind of fully, one of my dear friends, and quite a new friend at that time, she said to me, every day is a self-care day. Every day is a self-care day. Every day. And that for me was like a real revelation. And so I embrace that. Like, that is my mantra to this day. And it means that I'm very vigilant about what I do in a day. So if I'm doing a lot, if I'm doing a lot of creativity, I need, like today I've done a huge amount. I did like, John's talk, meditation for 1 minute, and then I did a song, and then I created 4 daily meditations and an intro and an outro. And this video, which is huge, and it's, this video is, energetically very challenging, but very healing. And that'll be me today. Like, I'll be finishing this about 9:30 in the morning. I will just be chilling with the family all day, like a rest day. This is me. And tomorrow is Sunday. There'll be no song release from me. And so, yeah, that really helps me. I've also been practicing things like, well, if I'm not feeling like strong enough to do a full, routine, like every morning I do running, then yoga, then a bit of gym, and then meditation, like that's a lot. So sometimes when I'm not feeling like I have the energy, I remove parts of that. So at the minimum, I would just do meditation, like usually on a Saturday and Sunday, like today, I just sit down, did some basic stretching and just a 10-minute meditation. That's my kind of like minimum, and that feels good. And when I need to, just have a long lie-in or take a long nap during the day, I find that really helpful. This other really interesting observation was that, like knowing your enemy, and my enemy of myself is myself, and my lack is not having enough, not having created enough, like this feeling that if I don't constantly create, or if I don't create huge volumes of music and meditations or whatever, then I am somehow worth less to me, that my self-love is tightly coupled with the volume of content that I create. And that is not true. And so it's funny, like when you think about the way that you deal with lack of abundance is to act as though you are abundant. And so in my case, to tackle the fear of not creating enough content, I now have regular breaks and ad hoc breaks of not creating content. And what that does is it says to me, John, it's okay, you've done enough. So I'm practicing this, like I've done enough. And it's the same with money. Like I definitely go through, it's a healing journey for me as well, as like going through the abundance of money. And when I feel the least abundant, I will, often I'll go and like book like a reading or a healing session with someone else, because even though like I'll be down to like, my last pennies, it's the feeling I get when I spend on something like that is that, well, first of all, I'm investing in myself, and I'm so blessed meeting so many beautiful souls, and receiving such beautiful readings and healings. And so it like goes twofold. Like I feel like, when in doubt, when you feel like you don't have enough money, spend more, because you then tell yourself and the universe that you have this feeling of abundance, and new money comes into your life unexpectedly from magical places that you just wouldn't expect. And then for me, like often if I feel like I have lack of money, and I go and spend something, often people will then book a session with me or like pay for a session. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. And it's not just money, right? It can be like testimonials. It can be some advice, or someone reaches out to you from nowhere and says, oh, I'd like to help you with something. I had someone offering to help me with a website, someone offering to help me with video content. There's, just a lot. So that abundance might not come back directly as money, but it'll come back as a feeling of abundance. That's what the universe is trying to teach you. And yeah, so I really love that. Oh, and finally, to the enemy, to my self-enemy of repetition and routine, kind of putting at risk or sometimes trying to compromise my self-care is to be unpredictable. So no one likes an unpredictable enemy, right? If your enemy is unpredictable, then it's like, what? Like, I don't even know what's going to happen next, what they're going to do next. And so having a little, like, being spontaneous, if I can say the word, like tonight, I may or may not go camping. Tomorrow, I may or may not do anything in the studio, any meditations, etc. I do have a workshop coming up tomorrow night. But in the morning, like, that may or may not happen. And I feel like those two realities are like constantly flipping between the two. Like, I'm really happy doing either. And I'll just let myself decide in that moment to do it or not. And whatever happens, I'm just like really open to it. And I feel like that's been really helpful for me too, is like kind of for the parts of me, the darkness of me that loves, the predictable nature of me, because it's a very easy way for darkness to, like, watch you. Like, if a burglar wants to burgle a house, they watch the people from outside and watch what they're doing and watch their patterns for a few days, whatever. And then they go in, and so they know when to attack, break into the house. And it's the same with, like, yourself, like, the shadow of you, like, if you can see, or anything that wants to, attach itself to you, you can see this regular pattern, that's much easier. Like, oh, he gets up, at 5 a.m. and he goes for a run at 5:10 and he meditates at this time. Like, those very specific behaviors are easier, and they're also easier to, like, wear someone down on, right? It's like they know when to come in. And so being spontaneous, I can't say the word, spontaneous, I said it, is really, really helpful. It's so funny, I'm struggling with that word. It's so poetic. And just like, I feel some of that energy wanting to come up and release out to me. It's spontaneously. I feel like I've shared so much. And I didn't cry. I thought I would. I did do a lot of grounding just before this. And I did I did 4 meditations just before, and I just feel really loved and calm. And I know that a big part of this shadow work is also for me going back, revisiting those dark periods, because I literally hadn't gone back. I hadn't watched the videos. I hadn't really spoken about it. I had spoken to a couple of people in person, but I felt so lonely and so lost at that time. And I still, like, mourn the people that I lost. And I send them so much love, and I'm so grateful for them doing it. Like, what could you ask more from your friends than to literally save your 8 lives and allow you to, to see the light and to keep going. Like, I'm so grateful for them. You know who you are. Thank you so much. And yeah, it was a huge shift in my life. And look what I got out of it. Like, look at the growth I got out of it. Now I'm, my self-care comes first every day. I take regular breaks. I always take, like, I do more clearings on a Sunday. So it's like, if there's ever a time that something's building up, I always know there's going to be a deeper clearing. And just in case, I randomly, spontaneously do. I'm not going to edit this out. Spontaneously also do, like, clearing and healing on myself on different days, just when it maybe I haven't done it for a little while, or maybe do it for several days, and then this, like, just wherever there's that feeling of lack, to, like, really lean into it and to step into the abundance. That's really, really powerful. So, wow, if you've made it to 39 minutes, wow, well done you. Give yourself a clap on the back. A pat on the back. Thank you so much for watching this. If you'd like me to share more about my shadows, well, I might watch more of those videos back and see what else there is to share and learn. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you have any ideas for the next video, please comment below or send me a message. And I'd absolutely love to create more. So thank you so much for watching. And I'm sending my love from Scotland. I love you so much. Take care. Love you.